Tamang kaalaman, tungo sa malayang kaisipan. Ako po si Ferdy Isleta.
Ang kultura ay susi sa kadakilaan. Ako po si Annie Luis.
Isang oras lang ang kailangan. Ako po si Renena Peñas. At ito ang
Padayon Presents, the NCCA Hour. Sulong na!
Padayon, the NCCA Hour. Sulong na!
Kultura, ang pinakasalamin ng ating diwa at kaluluwa bilang bayan. Ito ang magpapakita kung sino tayo bilang mamamayan. Ano ang ating nakaraan at papaano natin napalaya ang ating mga sarili sa mga balakid at mga hamong sumubok sa atin. Ito ang naglalarawan sa paninindigan natin.
Sa ating paglaya bilang isang bayang may sariling kasarinlan at pagkakakilanlan, hindi tayo kinakailangang manatiling bilanggo ng ating nakalipas. Mga katotohanang ating nabuksan, kagandahan at kabutihang ating natuklasan sa sarili sa bawat suliraning ating hinarap. At siyang magiging mas matibay na pundasyon upang maharap ang anumang darating na pagsubok sa kasalukuyan, maging sa kinabukasan.
Bayang maunlad, produkto ng maunlad na mga mamamayan. Hanapin natin ang ating kagandahan, kabutihan at katotohanan bilang mga Filipino dito sa Sagisag Kultura TV. Yugto ng ating paglalakbay dito sa lalawigan ng Ilocos Norte, dumako tayo sa dalawang lungsod nitong probinsya at patuloy nating tuklasin ang kalinangang kagalingan ng ating mga kababayang Ilocano.
Ano-ano pa nga ba ang kanilang kahusayang naiambag na nagpatingkad sa kulturang Filipino? Nagdaragdag dignidad at integridad sa ating bayan at bilang mga tao? Halina't patuloy nating alamin ang Likhang Yaman ng Batac at Laoag.
Batac is the centro of the southern part of Ilocos Norte. It's the second city now, and it's always been known as the home of great leaders, a culinary powerhouse in the province, because arguably the original empanada came from Batac.
Tinaguriang tahanan ng mga dakilang pinuno, ang lungsod ng Batac ay ikalawa sa pinakamatandang bayang itinatag ng mga Agustinong misyonaryo sa probinsya ng Ilocos Norte. Taong 1987, ipinagdiwang ng lungsod ang kanyang ika-4 na sentenaryo. Binubuo ng 43 barangay. Ang mga hangganan nito'y ang bayan ng San Nicolas sa Hilaga, bayan ng Pinili sa Timog, mga bayan ng Paway at Curimao sa Kanluran, at mga bayan ng Sarat at Bana sa Silangan. May layong 470 kilometro sa Maynila. Ito na may layong 17 kilometro mula sa lungsod ng Laoag, kabisera ng Ilocos Norte.
Batac got its name through a popular legend. During the early days, there was a man digging the root crop kamangeg. Then suddenly, the man fell into the deep hole. He could not get up from the hole and shouted, "Batakenak, Batakenak." 2 men passed by the hole and they heard the men shouting, "Batakenak" again. That's how Batac got its name. Batakenak means, "Help me up, help me up."
Dito sa lalawigan, mga Ilocano ay may mas malalim na pakahulugan sa salitang pamilya. Higit pa sa dugo, pamilya rin ang turing sa mga kababayang nagdadala ng dangal sa bayan nila. Ganyan kalawak ang kanilang pagpapahalaga sa kanilang kapwa, mapagmahal at mapagtangkilik, likas na mga katangian nila.
Pagdating sa mga sikat na tao, kailangan intindihin natin kung paano iniintindi ng Ilocano kung anong ibig sabihin ng hero. Para sa mga Ilocano, ang isang hero ay yung isang tao na nagbigay din ng karangalan sa kanila, namatay man siya o hindi. Unang-una, huwag nating kakalimutan yung tinatawag nating aglipayanism. Siguro, pangunguna ng, kung ibabase natin sa dokumento, Isabelo de los Reyes, then appointing Aglipay to be the leader of the labor group muna eh. Tapos pinasukan ito ng Philippinization of the parishes, mga parokya na kailangan maging Pilipino ang mga pare na nakahawak sa mga ito. Malaki ang naging epekto sa lalong-lalo na sa Ilocos Norte. Not because he is the Martin Luther version ng Pilipinas. Nagbigay siya ng revolusyon dito sa Ilocandia. Nagbigay ng alternative para sa paniniwala ng mga Ilocano. Nagbigay ng isang vision na magiging nasyonalista, independent ang mga Ilocano. Si Ricarte, matunog na pangalan yan pagdating sa Philippine Army. Hindi lang katapangan ang kanyang pinakita, kundi leadership din.
And then he is the father of Philippine Army. He is a general who did not surrender to the Americans. That's why we are very proud of him.
Si Marcos, ang pinakamataas na posisyon at ang pinakamatagal na hinawakang posisyon sa history of the Philippines, ang kanyang nahawakan at na-eksperyensya. Nagbigay ito ng karangalan sa mga Ilocano. Despite the fact that there are stories na negative, yun yung kailangan isang unang intindihin natin sa Ilocano, na hindi mo pwedeng i-deny yan sa isang Ilocano. That's one trademark. Once na nagbigay ka ng karangalan sa isang kadugo, sa isang kalugar o kasama sa lugar, ay malaking bagay yan sa isang Ilocano.
mga pook na may iba't ibang gamit mula sa mga istrukturang banal, mga teatro para sa mga pagtatanghal, hanggang sa mga bantayog at monumento ng mga dakilang Pilipino ipinagmamalaki ng mga Batakenyo.
Sa Immaculate Conception Church naman, na makikita beside the City Hall, ang patron saint namin dito sa Batac kasi ay si Immaculate Conception. That's why si Immaculate Conception ay very memorable sa amin. We start our city fiesta on the 8th of December, which is her anniversary. Si General Artemio Ricarte was born here in Batac, and for that may nagawang Ricarte Shrine and a park na kung saan makikita yung monumento ni General Artemio Ricarte. At sa shrine naman, makikita yung mga memorabilia ni General Artemio Ricarte. And last October 20, we celebrated his 152nd birth anniversary, and we had a parade, a wreath-laying ceremony, and a short program in honor of General Artemio Ricarte. Sa Aglipay Church, andun yung monument ni Gregorio Aglipay, and then sabi nila yung half of the remains ni mga buto-buto ni Aglipay ay nasa ilalim daw ng altar. And then yung half andito, pero close siya, dyan sa museum. We also have the Aglipay Shrine with the Mausoleum, at andito rin ang monument ni Monsignor Gregorio Aglipay. We have the monument of the late President Ferdinand Marcos at the Batac Park. Aside from the monument, we also have the Marcos Museum, which is located beside the monument. At makikita natin doon ang mga memorabilia ni President Marcos, gaya ng mga medals niya, ng mga plate number nung naging congressman siya, naging senator, at naging President of the Philippines. Makikita rin natin doon ang mga wardrobe ni President Marcos, so with Madam Imelda, some pictures of the late President. Ang Imelda Cultural Center ay matatagpuan sa City Hall. Dito ginaganap ang mga different activities ng siyudad ng Batac, gaya ng mga balikbayan night namin, mga presentation ng different schools. Doon din ginaganap yung mga events ng mga private individuals.
Mga selebrasyong Batakenyo, paboritong panahon ng mga Ilocano. Tampok ang iba't ibang kasiyahan, nagdiriwang ang mga mamamayan. Mula sa pista ng kanilang patron, pagpapalipad ng saranggola, hanggang sa masaganang ani, dahilan ng pagdiriwang sadyang napakarami.
During the month of May, we celebrate the Farmers Festival as a Thanksgiving naman sa mga farmers. Dito we have the parade, Search for Miss Balasang Tiaway, parade of painted carabaos. During the month of October, we have the Marmarna Festival in celebration of the Halloween period. Dito naman we also have the trick or treat for the kids. We also have the parade with floats, and also a dance drama showdown. During our Empanada Festival, we have the parade, street dancing. We also have the parade of floats, And we also have the dance drama showdown participated by the different clusters of the city of Batac.
Kung narinig nyo na ang polisiyang One Town, One Product, dito sa Batac ay ipinapatupad yan. Ngunit hindi lamang isa produktong nililinang nitong bayan. Bawat barangay dito sa Batac may hatid na likhang yaman.
The industry of our town is agriculture. We produce products like rice, corn, garlic, tobacco, tomatoes, and many other vegetables. In our barangays, we also have the one barangay, one product, wherein every barangay have their own distinct products. Like Barangay Kamgidan, they produce Rice Krispies. Barangay Mabaleng, they have their bamboo crafts. Barangay Palungpong, they have the veggie noodles and many others. We also have as obo, the honey syrup in some other barangays. The one barangay, one product is like livelihood in that barangay. It aims to give additional income for those families involved. Para naman may extra income yung barangay na yun.
Sa bayan ng San Nicolas, natikman na natin longganisa chicharon. Dito sa lungsod ng Batac rin, dalawang iyan ay mayroon.
Batac ay di lamang bayan ng dakilang mga Filipino'y isinilang. Ilan pa sa mga paboritong pagkaing Pinoy, dito rin ang pinagmulan.
Halina tayo'y kumain, mga dakilang Filipinong pagkain.
The city of Batac, our one town, one product is the empanada. The ingredients of this empanada are locally found. Just like the casing of the empanada, it is a rice flour, the papaya, the mongo, the longganisa, and the egg. Batac's empanada is the original.
Ako po si Richelle Marie Reyes ng Batac City. At ngayong araw na ito, ipapakita ko kung paano gumawa ng Batac empanada. Una po, yung dough ng empanada. Gawa po siya sa rice flour, atsuete at tubig na minasa. Pagkatapos masahin, magiging ganito na ang itsura. Tapos, kukuha lang po ng isang, yung kaya lang pong hawakan. Tapos, igaganito, didip sa oil, flatten siya. Ito na po ang dough. Tapos, palaman, ginadgad na papaya and munggo, buong itlog, tsaka yung Ilocos longganisa. Shape po ng half moon, tapos prito na po. Iprito ng 3 minutes. Pagkatapos po, ito na po ang finished product ng Batac empanada. Ako po si Richelle Marie Reyes ng Batac, tagaluto ng masarap na empanada ng Glory's Empanada.
Good day, Philippines! Ako si Mrs. Rosemary Corpus, dito sa Batac, Ilocos Norte. Ang lugar ng pinakamasarap na chicharon. Yung kinatay namin na baboy kaninang madaling araw, doon din nanggagaling yung niluluto namin chicharon. Yung belly at saka liempo, yun ang pinipili namin na parte. Ini-slice namin ng mga 3/4 yung isa at saka pinakukuluan sa malaking kawali. Nilalagyan namin ng asin. Lumambot na yung karne, hinahango namin, saka nalalagay sa palanggana. Saka namin ilalagay yung lumambot ng karne. Pagka nahango na yung brown na karne, ganito na ang kulay niya. Pakukuluin ng mainit yung manteka, saka ilalagay yung karne, yun na ang last na procedure. Magpapap na yung balat. Hintayin lang natin na tumaas yung karne.
We also have the longanisa, wherein most of the rural barangays have their backyard piggery. It is locally found in some rural barangays.
Ito rin ang longanisa na produkto rin ng R-Corpus Meat Stand. Ito ang pinakasikat na longanisa dito sa Ilocos. Ang gamit namin dito na ginagawa namin ay yung karne rin na ng baboy na bagong katay. Yung ratio ng taba at saka laman ay bale 3:1. Bale 3/4 yung laman, 1/4 yung taba. Yung mga sangkap nito ay paminta, bawang, suka, at saka asin. Ang ginagamit din namin na casing ay galing din sa baboy, yung isaw ng baboy, saka namin nilalagay yung karne sa loob niya. Yung ibang mga customer namin, ang hinahanap nila yung may tali-tali, pero yung mga iba, gusto rin nila yung diretso.
Laoag will always be the sunshine city of the north.
Kabisera ng lalawigang Ilocos Norte. Ang lungsod ng Laoag ay nagmula sa Ilocanong salitang lawag na ang ibig sabihin ilaw o liwanag.
Laoag was derived from the Ilocano word na lawag, meaning bright. The legend says that the area used to be forest land, and when the Spaniards came to clear the way for the pueblo or the town proper, they had to cut down the trees, and the locals said na lawag, or meaning bright. So that's where the name of Laoag was derived from.
Naitatag bilang bayan noong 1585 sa ilalim ng Kastilang pananakop, Laoag ang pinakaunang paroko at bayang nabuo sa hilagang bahagi ng lumang Ilocos.
They have one of the oldest church here in Ilocos Norte.
Milayong humigit kumulang sa 404 na kilometro mula sa Maynila, ang lungsod ng Laoag ay binubuo ng 80 barangay. Ang mga hangganan nito'y ang kanlurang dagat ng Pilipinas sa kanluran, munisipyo ng Sarat sa Silangan, bayan ng San Nicolas sa Timog Silangan, bayan ng Paway sa Timog Kanluran, munisipyo ng Vintar sa Hilagang Silangan, at bayan ng Bacara sa Hilagang Kanluran.
We're very blessed actually to have such geography, from the sand dunes to the white sand beaches, the forest, even Kapur-Purawan Rock Formation, which is a geographical wonder in itself. The province, the terrain is very diverse, and we're very fortunate to have varied landscape here in Ilocos. Ang reputasyon ng Ilocano ay kuripot at masipag. But for kuripot, siguro ang mas magandang adjectives ay resourceful at thrifty po. Ever since the province has had limited resources, of course, like everyone. And in addition to the natural disasters that we face quite consistently. So siguro dahil po sa dalawang reasons na yan, we're forced to not be wasteful.
Sa lungsod ng Laoag, mga pasyalay na nanawag. Mula sa likas na tanawing maririkit, mga likhang gusaling tunay na nakakaakit sa bawat lugar na pwedeng puntahan, may kwento at kasaysayang matututunan.
Ilocos in general is known for its architecture, especially in Norte and also in Laoag. It's evident in period houses that are here, dating back to the Spanish times as well as the American times. The obvious ones are, of course, the churches, the bell tower of Laoag, like the capital. It has been marked a historical structure this year because of the bicentennial celebration. It was built in 1918. This is 100 years after Ilocos Norte and Sur were founded. So it's not as old as other structures, but it played an important role in the local history up until the Japanese occupation, when the provincial government was forced to the mountains in Solsona in the east. So have its historical significance officially recognized only this year by the NHCP. If you see the plaza now, it might look small for a town plaza, but records would show and historians would say that Laoag had one of the largest plazas for modernization. In the present Laoag, the plaza, as records would say, would stretch up until Laoag Central Elementary School in that commercial area, up until the present plaza. So if you see the plaza now, all you see is the Capitol, the courthouse, and the City Hall. But nowhere can you see the church nearby because it was covered already. The interesting feature of the current plaza is a tobacco monopoly monument. This is a thanksgiving of the tobacco farmers to the Spanish crown for lifting the tobacco monopoly during the Spanish era. It's called Aurora Park after the wife of President Quezon. The St. William's Cathedral and the Bell Tower, of course, they go together. It's said to be one of the oldest in the region. It was built around the 1600s. Some historians would say it's older than the Spanish missions in California. Some historians would say if you trace it back, the St. William's Cathedral is actually older than Poway Church. If you would look at the facade of the cathedral, you would see pillars, but they won't be supporting anything. They're just there for aesthetic value. They say it's sinking because there's a story that a man on horseback dati could enter the bell tower. From 50, 100 years ago, the height is actually the same. It hasn't sunk. Maybe the stories came about because of the rising street level, because of modernization. It's actually one of the tallest and most massive in the country. If you compare the dimensions and the size of the bell tower of Laoag compared to the cathedral, the St. William's Cathedral, it's actually not proportionate. And the purpose of this Tawid Museum, Tawid means inheritance by the way, is to trace our roots and to further educate people about the ties between the Ilocano people and the Cordillera people. Some would think, bakit may Cordillera Museum sa Laoag or sa Ilocos, you're not part of the Cordilleras. Actually, Ilocos Norte is half Cordillera and half lowland or coastal areas. We have towns and communities in the eastern side that are actually part of our indigenous peoples. And the museum celebrates this connection and how we progress as two peoples, some might even say one, from the pre-Hispanic times, the Spanish era, and to modern times. Some would say that the people from the Cordilleras came from Ilocos and they migrated upland, especially when the Spaniards came. How these two peoples lived together, traded even, and shared resources. That's basically the purpose of the Tawid Museum. It's very unique. This museum even opened first compared to the museums in Baguio about the Cordillera culture.
We want to showcase how the Filipino hardworking people have earned a living, like farming, for example. We have all the artifacts there to show you all the materials and things that they use for farming. Fishing also, you see all the different nets and traps that they use for farming. A pottery, for example, which is very famous in San Nicolas. How baskets are made are also given examples in our artifact display. Everything you see in there are original materials that are used in the farms until now. It was not always a museum. After it closed as a Tabacalera building. This was where all the tobacco business was handled, because this museum.
At para sa huling tampok ng ating paglalakbay dito sa lalawigan, ating tapusin sa engrandeng mga kasiyahan.
Dahil mga Filipino'y likas na masayahing tunay, yesta'y bahagi rin ng Ilocanong buhay.
Additionally po, we have two prominent festivals, one of which being the Himala sa Buhangin, which takes place at the sand dunes, which was patterned similar to Burning Man sa States. So it's a music festival, music and cultural festival and party sa sand dunes.
The sand dunes is a National Geological Monument, and it's said to be the only desert-like landscape in the Philippines and probably Southeast Asia. It's a unique feature that could have only developed in Ilocos because of our unique location in the country. And these sand dunes form because of the movements of water. Rivers pull down the sand from the mountains into the mouths by the sea, and the strong winds of this part of the country would push it up thousands of years until the sand dunes was formed. Padayon Festival is a festival of the city of Laoag. Obviously, it's named after the song, the Ilocano song Pamulinawan, which is a courtship song. They have a special event during this festival. It's the Dulang Food Festival. It's a celebration of Ilocano food in general. Not necessarily food in Laoag, but Ilocano food as a whole. Our biggest in the province is called Tanok ni Ilocano. It's a festival of festivals. It means the greatness of the Ilocano. We started this mother of all festivals in the province in 2011. So the idea is bring together different Ilocano stories. So it's a theatrical dance presentation of these stories. It's a presentation in a grand stage. So 23 municipalities and cities of the province present their own stories. It's bringing together all the Ilocano, the great Ilocano stories in the province. Now it has become the biggest in terms of attendance. We attract around 50,000 people. It happens in Laoag. And even the Department of Tourism has labeled it as one of the, if not the largest cultural gathering in this part of the country.
Mga kababayan, ito po ang Likhang Yaman ng Ilocos Norte.
Sa bawat anyo ng kakulangan, kanilang tinugunan ng kasinupan. Sa bawat mukha ng kahinaan, kanilang sinuklian ng kasipagan. Sa bawat sikwat uri ng pagsubok, kanilang tinumbasan ng katapangan at katatagan. Kaya't hinaharap may sadyang walang katiyakan, kanilang pagkakaisa na may maaasahan. Sama-samang malalampasan anumang uri hatid ng suliranin ng kinabukasan. Ilocos Norte, kanyang mamamayan ng lalawigay tunay na likhang yaman.
Mga tagumpay na natamo, magkakahiwalay man o magkakasama, ang katapatan natin sa ating bayan bilang mamamayan ay nararapat ilaan. Kultura'y may layunin tayong mga mamamayan ay pag-isahin. Sa kanyang pagkakahiwa-hiwalay, sana'y di na maging suliranin. Ako si Lara Maige.
Sa bayang nagsilang, kumupkop, nagpapaunlad sa akin bilang tao, kanyang tanging hiling, tungkulin natin ay gampanan bilang Filipino. Ito si Hero Angeles at ito ang Sagisag Kultura TV.
Ako ay Pilipino. Ako'y makatao, saan man makarating, sino mang makapiling. Aangat ang galing, habang buhay, Filipino.
Ikot sandaang mga isla, magkakahiwalay ngunit nagkakaisa. Tahanan ng aming lahi, mga pook na aming ninimiti.
Puno ng kasaysayan, puno ng hiwaga, sa mga lugar na ito nakatanim ang ugat ng pagka-Pilipino. Kami ang lahing kayumanggi mula sa bughaw na langit at dagat. Mula sa pulang alimoy dugo, hinalo sa dilaw na araw at bituin. Yan ang kulay ng katatagan, yan ang kulay ng kagitingan, uungkapan na sumisigaw. Yan ang Pilipino. Dala ng pagkakataon o sadyang pinuot naging okasyon. Pagdiriwang ang aming kasiyahan, ipinagbubunyi ang kalayaan. Pinupuri ang katapangan, kapanganakan, pag-iisang bibig. Pagbabalik bayan o talino ng tatagisan, ipagdiwang natin ang pagiging Pilipino.
To look at many of our urban centers today is to look at how badly we've neglected the importance of urban planning. In Season 8 of Dayaw, we visit the old urban centers of Luzon to see how our ancestors maintained a sense of order. One that created spaces for communities, their economic and cultural activities, their daily lives. Indeed, the entire fabric of a solid, united community. This is Season 8 of Dayaw. Halina't dumayo, doon po sa amin. In Season 8 of Dayaw, we explore the heritage sites of Luzon and heard the voices of the advocates who continue their efforts tirelessly. In the final episode for the season, we see how rivers and bodies of water are the original heritage sites that birthed cities and towns, commerce, cuisine, entire cultures, and rituals of faith. In Pateros and Malabon, The fluvial parades honoring their patrons are proof that great faith is born on the waters of heritage. The Pateros River is the western border of this town. This river has seen the history of the town as it grew from a visita or barrio of Pasig in the 18th century.
It was separated as a town in 1799, but it does not have a separate parish or a church that was built exclusively for the town until 1815, when a Augustinian priest was assigned to stay in Pateros by the name of Father Behil. And the first order of the day when he came to Pateros was to build the church, which stands now right at the middle of the town itself. And it is in the middle, in between two rivers, the Pateros River on the left side and the Santa Ana River at the right side.
Still later, it was consolidated with Taguig and Muntinlupa before finally being declared a separate political and geographic entity.
The most important structure na tinayo sa Pateros noong panahon na yon ay ang simbahan. Siya ang nag-iisang structure na gawa sa bato, sa adobe. Siya ay may mataas na tore at sinulat ni Buseta na may maganda itong struktura at magandang disenyo. Ang pananampalataya kay Santa Marta ay parang likas na sumibol dahil sa pananampalataya ng taga-Pateros sa kanyang kalikasan. Ang ilog ang pinagmumulan ng kanyang kabuhayan. Dito niya inaalagaan ng mga itik na kinukunan niya na itlog sa paggawa ng balot. At dito rin niya kinukuha ang mga isda na kanyang kakainin. Pero dumating ang panahon na may mga buhaya na kumakain ng mga itik na naroroon sa ilog at nakasira sila sa magandang agos ng kabuhayan. Pero hindi nila pinatay ang mga buhaya. Pinaamo nila ito sa pamamagitan ng isang babae na tinatawag nilang si Marta, na sumakay sa ibabaw ng buhaya upang payapain ito.
So, anong nangyari noon? Lumapit yung mga taga-Aguho pa ang Pateros noon sa simbahan. So, pinayuhan sila ng isang pare na sabi, magdebosyon kayo kay Santa Marta kasi sa buhay niya, meron din siyang Tarascon Dragon na napaamo. Ngayon, anong nangyari? Ito daw si Santa Marta, di umano, ay nagkaroon ng milagro. Nagpakita siya dun sa mga tao at eventually, yung buhaya na nanginginain ng itik ay nawala.
In the Church of San Roque, there are 3 devotional images. The ancient wooden santo enshrined in her own altar is referred to as Matandang Santa Marta. The ivory-headed image is called the shrine image, while Batang Santa Marta is a kalihera, the image brought out for the feast day celebrations.
Dati, yung piyesta, hindi ginagawa sa kalye, sa ilog lang. Pagoda lang yan sa ilog at pinipili ng mga ninuno namin ang kabilugan ng buwan para gawin ng pagoda kasi nung araw, hindi pa uso ang ilaw, ang generator. At ang liwanag ng buwan at ang ilaw ng kalburo ang siyang tanglaw. No? So, eventually, nag-evolve na to. At bumaba na yung prosesyon sa kate o sa lupa at sumasayaw na rin ang pandango sa lupa.
Today, the great fluvial parade that once marked Santa Marta's feast day has been altered drastically. When geographical features like rivers are altered by urbanization, the rites of faith must adapt.
Yung salitang pasubo ay isang malalim na salita na bumabagtas pa hanggang sa bago dumating ang mga Kastila. Ito ay ritual pa rin na ginagawa na dati ay nung malaki ang ilog, ginagawa ang ritual ng pasubo sa ilog na kung saan doon nananahan ang mga buhaya. Pero dahil sa haba ng panahon, napabayaan ng ilog, nabahayan ng maraming tao, ay hindi na nagagawa ang pasubo sa ilog. Nagkaroon na lang ng pasubo sa daan. Ang pasubo ay isang paraan ng pakikisama sa kalikasan. May mga bagay tayong nagagawa sa kalikasan na maaring matawag natin na nanuno tayo. At kailangan nating gumawa ng paraan upang mabawi natin ang pagkakanuno. At ito ay sa pamamagitan ng pasubo. Ang pasubo ang magre-restore ng balance between dun sa nagawa mong kapinsalaanan sa kalikasan at sa pagbubuo mong muli ng magandang pagbabalik mo ng magandang kalikasan.
Sadly, the once great Pateros River, where many fluvial parades in honor of the saint were held, has shrunk in size, along with many of the tributaries that once coursed through old Pateros. One cannot mention the town of Pateros without the iconic balut coming to mind. The duck egg delicacy and its production has become synonymous with the town, both its culture and its economic progress.
Kami yung kinikilala na maker of the most delicious balut in the Philippines. Nung panahon na yon, ang source of duck eggs natin are very cheap. It's coming from the rivers of Pateros, Pasig, Taguig, and around Laguna Lake. Pero siguro mga 10 years ago, na-pollute na lahat ng rivers eh. And there is no single duck in Pateros. There's no single duck in Taguig. Sa Pasig, wala na rin. At ang duck farm, duck raisers around Laguna Lake, kokonting-konti na lang. The duck raisers napunta ngayon sa mga rice granaries, sa mga rice farms. Dahil doon libre eh. Pinakakawalan nila yung mga duckling hanggang sa ito ay umabot ng 6 months, ready to lay eggs.
Ang pagbili ng sariwa ang umpisa noon. Tapos, kung mahina ang init ito, ibibilad niya yung sariwa. Ngayon yan ilalagay yun. Dito namin inaano yung init.
Kailangan talaga ni-rotate.
Oo, kasi para yung sisiw nahahalo. Yung sisiw niya gumagalaw. Lalong lumalakas ang sisiw.
The traditional methods of making balut have now given way to technological advances.
Ito yung incubator. Ano difference nito sa traditional? Dito, kapag dumating ang itlog na sariwa, yung fresh egg, ilalagay mo kaagad sa loob. Pagkatapos, hindi mo na siya gagalawin. Kaya mo lang gagalawin siya pagdating ng 11 days. Dahil sisilawin mo sila, ikakandel. Sisilawin mo sila para ihiwalay mo yung buhay sa patay na itlog. Nung araw, yung method dati, isa-isang pagsisilaw ng matong, isa-isang sisilawin ng itlog. Ngayon hindi, yung 200, dito lang namin lalagay. At ang aalisin lang namin dito, yung patay nga yung pera. Now, ito naman, how do you control temperature? Di ba sabi ko kanina? Kailangan kinokontrol mo temperature, no? Now, how do we do that? There is a thermostat. Ayan, that's an equipment that regulates the temperature inside the incubator. So, hindi na problema sa worker because it's the machine that regulates the temperature. What we are doing to get back the premium we used to enjoy when Pateros was famous as the only maker, the center of balut production, the center of balut sa puti production na masarap ang pagkain. So we want to get back there by having this.
If Pateros has the heritage delicacy that is balut, then Malabon has its own heirloom culinary staple in the flavorful Pansit Malabon. Culinary scholars see in this savory staple a guide to Malabon's geography, history, and natural bounty. Richard Bautista, a proud son of Malabon, traces the history of what was once known as Tambobong.
The old name of Malabon, Malabon na Botas, was one before. It was the town of Tambobong. Tambobong, as you would see, it's an old Tagalog term, or very Tagalog term, meaning rice granary. So why would our town would have rice? Where, as you would see, what's the area? So that alone correlates to, wait, something is, there's trading. Plus, you would also relate as well, what is the present name of the town, which is Malabon. Malabon came from the word which means and correlates to the trade as well. Ma, plenty, labong, meaning watery mud. As you would see, it correlates to water. Water that gave life to many things. In olden days, towns were established through the estuaries or the waterways. So like the blessing here in Malabon, the waterways, and there's this place called Dagat-Dagatan, which was a lagoon, which is very integral to the trading. It's a very good docking site. So Malabon has had many products from the Central Plains brought in by the waterways. You have rice, you had sugar, tobacco. Why Malabon had this peculiar town development? It doesn't really have the usual setting of the illustrious, the prosperous, those people living around the plaza. You would see them scattered from north to south of the island of Malabon. Though if you are still to apply the laws of the Indies idea, you would still see a certain setting that it was applied, but mutated to the local setting. Then the other things here, it grew organic. So from the usual setting, you have the old town here, then someone came in, there's available lot, there's this available land that they built their house. So it was a very organic development. Most especially, the mindset of the locals, very industrious. But we make it a point that we establish our inner selves more than anything else. Like, would you believe that to date, we still believe in palabra de honor over contracts? So that alone speaks of soul. You trust. Trust is the most important thing. So you really take care of your reputation.
Malabon's patron is San Bartolome, the apostle who was skinned alive and whose attribute is the bolo. But while San Bartolome is titular patron, the Immaculate Conception shares the heart of the people.
The Feast of the Immaculate Conception is December 8. December 8 alone nationally. But here in Malabon, we have it for 3 days. December 8, as we call it, fiesta, the national fiesta. December 9, fiesta ng manging isda. December 10, fiesta ng bayan. On December 9, which became a highlight because there's this fluvial procession carrying a miraculous image of the Immaculate Conception, which dates back to the 17th century or 18th century, I would say. So that one day, they parade around town the image. Then at the end of it is this fluvial procession or the pagoda. So it lies to the river, lies to the Motos River. Back then, it went around the island of the Botas River, going around that place. To Malabon. But sadly, back then, there were hardly materials to show. I mean, you may find a material here, a material there, but not a combined one. The world just knows of the rotting image, but we know it's a very vibrant place and we have so much here. So on my own, I decided to promote it. Then later on, I found out, or we found out that, hey, you're doing this, we made it a point to really reverse the image of the decaying promotion of Malabon. So somehow good enough that people found it and learned about it and discovered it themselves. That you would see heritage, you would see food, you would see music, you would see many things around. And what I am more concerned right now is really the promotion and the re-establishing the palabra de honor, respeto system. That's one thing people are missing now, and that's one thing I would like the world to really look at, how we deal with palabra de honor. Because how could you be a progressive place if you don't trust each other, if you don't respect palabra de honor?
Santa Maria,
If only more Filipinos would have the same enthusiasm for discovering and promoting their own heritage sites. Wait, I'll let you finish that sentence. After all that I've seen and experienced in Season 8 of Dayaw, here is my own takeaway. Heritage is not just a building or a monument or a landmark. It is the food we eat, the devotions we cling to, the landscapes that we grew up with, the values we espouse and hold dear, all of that and more. While built heritage may be a lasting, tangible sign of the past, it is nothing without our own sense of responsibility and awareness. And all this heritage will never cross over into the future unless we find the personal value in our hearts. After all, who are the best bearers of the knowledge and the pride? We are Dayaw.